Remain seated and be seated. Honourable members, the table had been advised that PQ B1734 will be replied by the Honourable Minister of Agro-Industry and Food Security. The following PQs have been withdrawn: B1735, B1737. I now call Honourable Mrs. Navarre-Marie.
Et 1733.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to inform the House that the nature of cases of domestic violence has evolved over the years, and it is therefore crucial to come up with a new legislation for victims of domestic violence. And in this regard, in July of this year, approval was obtained to repeal the Protection from Domestic Violence Act of 2016, and in this respect, a new bill is under preparation. With regards to the inclusion of the recording sound video as a type of admissible testimony, I am informed that this is already under discussion by my ministry and the relevant authority, and the proposals made in the new bill would address, so far as possible, obviously, and so far as practicable, all the lacunas of the present Act. Thank you.
Merci. La ministre envisage-t-elle d'organiser des consultations après l'ébauche de cet important amendement?
Absolutely, Mr. Speaker, sir. I have just stated in my reply that there are discussions that are ongoing at the level of my ministry and relevant authorities. I welcome thoughts and recommendations and views concerning this extremely important, and I'm totally on the same wavelength with a member of the opposition on this, a very, very important inclusion to be considered. But of course, when we talk about recording sound video as something that is admissible in a court of law, there are very, very many intricacies surrounding the admissibility itself. So that is currently being discussed.
Pourrait-elle nous donner un time frame dans lequel ce projet de loi sera complété?
Mr. Speaker, sir, we have reached quite advanced stages in our discussion with the stakeholders, and I don't have a specific timeline as such, but I am fairly certain that the new domestic abuse bill will be presented in this assembly as soon as it is possible. Thank you.
Piganga Prasad.
B1734.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed that according to the Geographic Information System, GIS, data set, 5 coastal wetlands have been identified within the state land in the region of Onze-Larrey, stretching from Paradise Cove Boutique Hotel to the Onze-Larrey Fish Landing Station, also known as Saint-François Débarcadère Fish Landing Station. With regard to measures taken for the preservation and protection of the wetlands, activities such as land clearing and development, including installation of high-tension lines in environmentally sensitive areas, require an environmental impact assessment, EIA, pursuant to Part B of the 5th Schedule to the Environment Protection Act, EPA. My ministry, by virtue of the provisions laid down at paragraph 3 of the 4th Schedule to the EPA, is now mandated to supervise enforcement of national environmental standards and notices, orders, and directives issued under the environmental law and verify compliance therewith. Second, conduct regular monitoring, sampling, test, and analyze to ensure compliance with environmental laws, and provide such assistance as may be required in case of a spill or of an environmental emergency, and for reviewing an EIA. Moreover, by way of the amendment, my ministry can also exercise powers under the EPA Act in terms of issuing or causing to issue a prohibition notice and enforcement of a variation notice in case of contravention of any environmental law. Serving a stop order to prohibit any development or activity being carried out without the relevant license or permit issued under the EPA, entering and searching a premises other than a dwelling house to determine whether any environmental law enforcement notice, prohibition notice, or direction is being complied with, and serving a fixed penalty notice for any offense committed under the 9th schedule of the EPA in relation to littering and dumping. The Republic of Mauritius, being a signatory to the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands since September 2001, is committed to protecting and preserving wetlands in line with the objectives of the Convention. In this regard, a National Ramsar Committee has been established and chaired by the Senior Chief Executive of my ministry and representatives of different authorities as well as non-governmental organizations also form part of the committees. The main function of the Ramsar Committee is to advise on wetland policies and any project around wetlands, and the meeting is held monthly depending on the number of applications and complaints received. Furthermore, the National Development Strategy, EC3 policy of the Ministry of Housing and Land Use Planning, also provides for the protection of wetlands, including a minimum of 30 meters setback from the wetland for any development around wetland. Mr. Speaker, sir, in his reply to PQB 1529 at the sitting of the National Assembly of 21st November 2023, the Minister of Environment, Solid Waste Management and Climate Change, however, informs that no application for an EIA license was received with regard to development on the above state lands since January 2020. I am informed that no application for Ramsar clearance has been received at the level of my ministry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I ask the Honourable Minister whether in June 2015, the then Minister of Environment, late Minister Raj Dayal, had taken the wise decision to declare the wetlands of Anse Larrey as protected zones for effective development of the ecosystem. What is the current policy? Is it still a protected zone whereby licenses and so on will not be given for infrastructural development in the vicinity?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I have already replied to this answer at the beginning of my answer. I mentioned that the region of Anse Larrey, stretching from Paradise Cove, Bouchik to Anse Larrey, there are 5 coastal wetlands which has been identified. So I think they are already under the protection, as you mentioned previously.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Now, the ecosystem there, the wetland, it is the breeding ground for various creatures, marine and others. What is being done by the ministry in order to ensure that this continues for the preservation of the ecosystem, for the marine creatures and other creatures which use that area for their breeding ground?
Mr. Speaker, sir, as I already mentioned in my reply, that there are constant visits and monitoring which is being done from my offices or my ministry. And in case there is any development or any project, they need to have the license, the permit, and they need to go. They need to inform our ministry and also to the Ministry of Environment, where they need to have the EIA license, and also they have to come up. They have to come up to our ministry, where the National Ramsar Committee will look upon it. So we are already monitoring it very closely.
Next question, MP Omia.
One, sir.
Mr. Speaker, sir, as per the findings of the Mauritius Non-Communicable Diseases and City Survey 2021, there is a high prevalence of diabetes in Mauritius, with 19.9% of the population suffering from diabetes. Despite government health services being free of charge at all levels, only 17.3% of diabetes patients have a good glycemic control. As regards to type 1 diabetes, it is a chronic condition where the pancreas produces little to no insulin. Type 1 diabetes develops in children and young adults, but can occur at any age, and unlike type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes is not linked to lifestyle factors like diet and exercise. Mr. Speaker, sir, insulin therapy is the cornerstone to managing type 1 diabetes, and since the body cannot produce its own insulin, people with type 1 diabetes need to take insulin through insulin injections or an insulin pump to regulate their blood sugar level. Mr. Speaker, sir, this government, who has the care of type 1 diabetes patients at heart, has taken the initiative to improve the service of managing type 1 diabetes through a multidisciplinary approach which integrates healthcare, technology, and patient education. However, in introducing new services, the safety of patients has to be taken into consideration, as new technologies may lead to an increase to stress and burnout, which in turn can lead to psychological issues. Additionally, in case of misuse, the automatic administration of insulin by the pump may lead to uneasiness, hypoglycemia, and potentially critical conditions. Mr. Speaker, sir, my ministry has considered all risks associated with the use of insulin pumps in depth and have set up technical committees, including a team of healthcare professionals specialized in diabetes care and endocrinology to work out the framework for new diabetes technology. In the first instance, my ministry would be procuring CGM machines for 1,000 type 1 diabetic patients, and I'm informed that tenders for the procurement of CGM for 1,000 patients would be floated shortly. Mr. Speaker, sir, my ministry is also planning to offer comprehensive education programs for patients, healthcare officers, and dietitians in diabetes technology. This awareness program includes the training on the use of diabetes management tools and technologies, workshops and webinars to share experiences and knowledge. Furthermore, personalized training would be conducted for patients by considering their lifestyles, factors, age, comorbidities, and personal preferences. Mr. Speaker, sir, my ministry is providing caring and innovative services that put type 1 diabetes patient holistic needs at the center of all our action. I'm sure that we will bring even more innovations and better services to diabetes patients. However, we need to carefully phase in these advances in a considered and professional approach as we are moving ahead.
Thank you. Does the minister has any idea as a time frame before this new insulin delivery system will be available to the targeted group of patients?
Likely, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I've stated in my reply, there is also the patient's information training and to get these C machines, and all that will be through the procurement processes expected next year, probably in the middle of the next year. These machines will be provided to patients.
Next question, MP Boda.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to direct the attention of the honourable member for Vacuan Floreal to the Estimates Committee and the budget vote of my ministry for financial year 2023-2024. In his last budget, my esteemed colleague, the Honourable Padiachi, the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, has given particular attention to investment in public health infrastructures nationwide. also in the public sector investment program spanning from 2023-2024 to 2025-2026, provisions have been made for the construction of an area health center at Henrietta. The project consultant appointment for this endeavor is HSCC, a Government of India company. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have been informed that on November 16, 2023, the HSCC Limited submitted tender drawings, bidding documents, general conditions of contract, cost estimates, and the bill of quantities for the construction of the aforementioned area health center. A meeting with the consultant was held on December 5th this year to validate these documents. Currently, my ministry is in the process of obtaining necessary clearances on the drawings from relevant authorities, approvals from the Building Plans Committee, and financial clearance will then be sought before floating bids. Mr. Speaker, sir, as regards Glen Park, my ministry is actively pursuing a project for the construction of a new community health center to replace the existing one. Since 2020, Ministry has been collaborating with the Ministry of Housing and Land Use Planning to identify a suitable plot of land for the new community health center near the existing one. Despite the identification of several sites, none were found to be suitable. Mr. Speaker, sir, in October this year, the Ministry of Housing and Land Use Planning informed us that as a final attempt, it has identified two potential sites of 2,400 meters square and 712 meters square, respectively, with a locus of 90 meters from the existing community health center at Glen Park. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, sir, to put on record that support of Honorable Ashley Itu, the third elected member of constituency number 16, to facilitate the identification of the site has already been undertaken. Following an analysis of the provided plans, Ministry has scheduled a site visit with relevant stakeholders before formally responding to the Ministry of Land and Housing.
The Honourable Minister, can I have a supplementary question, Mr. Speaker, sir? Yes. Can I have some precision as regards to the site in Oyeta for the area health center?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't have it. I'll table it for you. There is no problem. I'll let you know.
Second question, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes. Can I have an idea of the budget which has the estimates for the area health center of Henrietta?
Mr. Speaker, sir, it would be around about 100 million rupees.
Next question, MP Uchit. Not here. Next question, MP Antid.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. B1740. Merci.
So, Mr. Speaker, sir, Section 13A of the Protection from Domestic Violence Act of 2007 makes provision for referral of cases of domestic violence to my ministry for psychological counseling in exceptional cases. And in doing so, the court has regard to circumstances such as the nature of the offense being committed, the character, the antecedents, the mental and psychological condition, the age, the health, the home surroundings of the offender. And these psychological counseling sessions, they are set up based on the consent of both the victims and the perpetrator. And they address issues such as anger, trauma, anxiety, conflict, only to name a few. In addition, my ministry is working on a program with perpetrators on anger management and conflict resolution with the aim to bring a change in the mindset that will help the perpetrators from abstaining from committing acts of violence again. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed that from January to September of this year, 331 perpetrators attended counseling sessions at the level of Family Support Bureau and Family Support Services of my ministry. I wish to also point out that officers of my ministry ensure that follow-up is made with victims through the police, even if perpetrators refuse or fail to attend psychological counseling sessions at times. Mr. Speaker, sir, in addition to the psychological counselling sessions, since 2019, my ministry is collaborating with the Prime Minister's office through the Ensemble avec CSU program and to conduct awareness campaigns that targets the public at large. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Men as Caring Partner project adopts a balanced human rights approach to encourage greater involvement of men as caring partners through sensitization programs and behavioral change communication strategies that target men within a community. The aim of the project is to promote greater involvement of men in sharing family responsibilities and enhancing men's support to their spouse and their partner. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, sir, in accordance with the recommendation of the National Strategy and Action Plan on the High-Level Committee on Gender-Based Violence, my ministry has, with the collaboration of religious bodies, set up programs with the aim to bring a positive societal change to combat gender-based violence, and I'm informed that from January to November this year, around 600 participants have been reached through these programs. My ministry also works in collaboration with the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the Mauritius Police Force to carry out sensitization campaigns throughout the island. I am apprised by the Mauritius Police Force that last year in 2022, around 11,000 children from primary school, 13,000 adolescents from secondary schools, and 5,000 members of the public have been reached.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président. Peut-on avoir de la ministre des détails concernant le nombre d'experts impliqués dans le programme de réhabilitation, leur nom et leur qualification? Je vous remercie.
Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, sir, I do not have the information at hand, but if the honourable member would come with a substantive question, I'll be very happy to bring the information.
You sure you have a good question? Try, I see.
Always good question, Mr. Speaker, sir. Peut-on savoir de la ministre à quelle fréquence se déroulent ces programmes de réhabilitation? Je vous remercie.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I have elaborated in my original reply where they are taken place, how many people, children, secondary school children, adults, community members have been reached. So pay attention.
You're always fighting for nothing. Honorable Kire is ready for the good question.
As usual, B1741.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to remind the House.
Just wait a minute. I heard a voice saying "Dimun Peri toi," and if the honourable member doesn't, I will know. Don't you worry. I need no help. I need no help. And if that honourable member doesn't apologize, when I review the recording, I will ask the honourable member to withdraw from the chamber. Honourable Minister, continue.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to remind the House that a systemic and progressive approach has been adopted in the teaching of Creole Mauritian in our schools, involving curriculum development as well as training of educators. In fact, KM was first introduced in grade 1 in 2012 as an optional subject, and around 3,000 pupils in grade 1 opted for the subject. The first examination in KM was held at PESAC assessment level in 2017 with 2,480 pupils of grade 6 sitting for the paper and a pass rate of 79.6%. In 2018, around 2,000 students opted for KM in grade 7. In 2021, the first National Certificate in Education assessment in KM was held with around 1,200 candidates sitting for the paper. KM is being offered as an optional subject in grade 10 as from 2021, and a first cohort of 182 students have taken the National School Certificate in CAM, which is organized by the National Examination Board and which will be awarded by the UOM. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'd like to refer the Honourable Member to my reply to PQ B1344, where I had informed that the introduction of CAM as at AS level and subsequently at A level is being looked into by a technical team. We intend to proceed stepwise, Mr. Speaker, sir, building up experience at school certificate level and developing readiness of the system in terms of human resource and availability of literary resources in the standardized form of the language. Mr. Speaker, sir, as stated earlier, my ministry is committed to a stepwise implementation of CAM at AS level and subsequently at A level.
Le ministre se rend-elle compte qu'à ce jour, 182 étudiants, donc près de 200, sont pénalisés, puisque le ministère de l'Éducation les prive de la possibilité de continuer à étudier le créole mauricien au niveau de la HSC. Donc, n'est-on pas en train, Monsieur le Président, de démotiver ces étudiants dans la poursuite de leurs études?
Honourable Member,
Yes.
bear with me. Put your question directly. Don't make a long statement.
No, it's not long.
Like inviting comments from the minister. If not, I will break your statement in pieces and let the minister answer piece by piece. Okay?
It was not a statement.
Either we are in
Mr.
question time or debate.
It was not a statement.
Mr. Speaker, sir, let me remind the Honourable Member that we have all our intention of implementing CAM at A level, AS at A level. But as I've said earlier, we need to be ready for that, and we have to build up the system's readiness for that. And secondly, it's worth noting that there are a number of subjects which are offered at SC level, but not at A level. So it's not as if we are penalizing one particular group or another group. It is a normal practice that until and unless we are sure that we can offer the subject at A level, have sufficient teachers, have sufficient literary material, we will obviously go for it. Mr. Speaker, sir.
Concernant le personnel enseignant, paraît-il, est insuffisant pour enseigner le créole mauricien au niveau de la HSC. Je me base sur votre réponse précédente. L'honorable ministre peut-elle nous dire ce que fait son ministère actuellement pour remédier à cette situation?
Mr. Speaker, sir, we have been recruiting supply teachers. We have been asking teachers teaching languages if they wish to teach CAM and go for training for that. We are also recruiting at the level of the PSC teachers for the teaching of CAM.
MP Dulab.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So B 1742.
Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Part A of the question, I wish to inform the House that the Water Resources Unit monitors the storage levels of the main reservoir, namely Marovacqua, La Nicolière, Piton du Milieu, La Ferme, Marlong, Midlands, and Bagatelle reservoirs. I am informed that the current storage level in these reservoirs stands at 63.88 million meter cube, representing 69.3%. The recent rainfall has contributed in sustaining storage levels of our main reservoirs. Mr. Speaker, sir, despite the current storage level, it has to be highlighted that the Central Water Authority cannot abstract the 63.88 million meter cube for treatment and distribution as around 2.5% of storage bodies are considered as dead storage. Dead storage is generally the volume of water below the lowest supply level that cannot be withdrawn from the reservoir. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, sir, we should also not forget that we are in the midst of the dry season. The unpredictability of rainfall and the Mauritius Meteorological Services Summer Outlook 2023-2024 necessitate a proactive approach towards water conservation. In addition, the months of December and January traditionally witness high water demand, placing additional strain on our water resources. Therefore, it is imperative that we recognize the importance of sustainable water usage and heed the call to conserve. Even with the current reservoir levels, we must remain vigilant and mindful of water usage to ensure sustainable utilization throughout the dry season. Over the past month, my ministry has been adopting a more prudential approach regarding water resources management, especially in the face of climate change and unpredictabilities. Mr. Speaker, sir, notwithstanding the above, with regards to Part B of the question, I am informed by the Central Water Authority that the village of Mayberg is supplied with some 6,000 meter cube of water per day from Mont Désert Reservoir. The daily hours of water supply in the Mayberg region are as follows. A. Lower Mayberg, that is from Mosque to Cavendish, 12 hours, and Mayberg Upper, Museum to Mosque, 6 hours. As I had indicated in reply to PQB 1407 at our sitting on 7th November 2023. The water network in Mayberg, which consists mainly of cast iron and asbestos concrete pipes, have been laid more than 50 years ago and require replacement and upgrading. In this connection, a comprehensive pipe replacement project is being executed in 3 phases to reduce water losses and improve water supply. In the first phase, a new gravity main will be installed along a 2-kilometer stretch from Mayberg Museum to Cavendish Bridge, accompanied by the renewal of 3.3 kilometers of pipes. The contract has already been awarded to Southern Limited for this phase, amounting to 62,479,847.10, excluding VAT, with a duration of 8 months, scheduled to commence in the first week of December 2023. The second phase entails the renewal of approximately 8.7 kilometers of old and defective pipelines in lateral roads ranging from 63 to 160 millimeter HDPE pipes. The project area under phase 2 is delimited by A. Rue de la Passe, Rue Marianne, Rue Saint-Martin, Rue Bambou, and RDA Road A12. B. RDA Road A12, Rue Marianne, Rue des Hollandais, et Rue du Hangar. This phase is expected to commence in March 2024 and conclude in March 2025. Mr. Speaker, sir, similarly, the third phase aims to renew about 6.2 kilometers of pipelines in remaining lateral roads ranging from 63 to 160 millimeter HDPE pipes. The project area under phase 3 is delimited by RDA Road A12, Rue du Hangar, Rue Sivananda, and Sir Abdul Razak Mohammed Street. This phase is projected to start in March 2024 and concluding in January 2025. Mr. Speaker, sir, every effort is being made by the Central Water Authority to maintain current hours of supply in Mayberg, taking into consideration demand and supply related factors. In addition, the Central Water Authority is implementing projects under its contingency plan for the dry season with a view to improving water supply for the population across the island. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Following the commissioning of a pressure filtration plant yesterday in the region of Fernie, can the Minister inform the House if same will help to improve on water supply in the regions of Petit Bel-Air, Villeneuve and Mayberg? Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, the commissioning of pressure filter plants around the island help to alleviate the water problem. In the region of Mayberg, is supplied with water from Mont Désert Reservoir, which is fed by Trois Boutiques borehole and AML borehole. Now, from the question that has been put, I understand that after the completion of the phase 1 of the Mayberg project, water from the 2 containerized pressure filter at Fernie will be injected in the distribution network at Mayberg.
Next question, MP Joanna Bélanger.
B1743.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. In my reply to parliamentary question B127 at the sitting of the National Assembly on the 5th of April 2022, I informed the House that an in-depth review of the Environment Protection Act 2002 had been strongly advocated during the Assises de l'Environnement organized by my ministry in December 2019. In this respect, consultancy services were enlisted by the United Nations Development Programme Country Office for this exercise. The House was also informed that extensive consultations were held with all key stakeholders, including ministries and departments, local authorities, academia, private sector organizations, non-governmental organizations, and other even members of the public. Prior to the closure of the consultancy assignment, the working document containing the consultants' proposed amendments to the EPA was circulated to key stakeholders, including the Mauritius Council of Social Service, which is a recognized national platform for NGOs and the civil society organizations for the promotion of sustainable development on the 16th of February and 10th of March 2022, soliciting their views and comments ahead of a consultative meeting. MACOS had circulated the working document to all its members on both occasions. And third, the proposed amendments to the EPA were thereafter discussed with stakeholders during a 3-day consultative meeting held virtually with the consultant from the 14th to the 16th of March 2022. The list of stakeholders who were solicited to partake in the consultations from the 14th to 16th March was tabled at the sitting of the National Assembly on the 5th of April 2022. Further to Part A of the question, Mr. Speaker, sir, with your permission, I am tabling the said list anew. With regard to Part B of the question, Mr. Speaker, sir, following submission of the final deliverables by the consultants on the 20th of March 2022, government agreed on the 1st of April 2022 to my ministry issuing drafting instructions to the Attorney General's Office on amendments proposed to the Act. Drafting instruction regarding amendments to be brought to the EPA was accordingly issued to the AGO on the 14th of April 2022. Since then, officers of my ministry have been attending several working sessions with representatives of the AGO. A final round of consultation on the draft bill was undertaken with ministries in January 2023, and focus meetings to discuss specific provisions of the bill were also held with a few ministries. The Attorney General's Office is in fact proposing that the EPA be repealed and replaced by a new piece of legislation to adequately address the scale of contemporary environmental challenges. The draft bill is now nearing finalization, and arrangement will be made for its introduction into the National Assembly at the earliest.
Concernant les consultations, le ministre pourrait-il faire le nécessaire pour que le draft bill soit rendu public, étant donné qu'il y a certaines ONG qui n'ont pas été consultées avant que le document soit envoyé au State Law Office, car ne faisant pas partie de la MACOS, n'étant pas membre de la MACOS, ces ONG n'ont pas été consultées. Et il me semble que la MACOS n'a soumis aucun commentaire. Donc, est-ce qu'il pourrait faire de sorte que le draft bill soit rendu public?
Monsieur le Président, j'ai eu l'occasion à maintes reprises d'expliquer un peu toute la procédure qui a été suivie en ce qui concerne les consultations avec toutes les parties prenantes. Il y a eu même les avis qui ont été mis au niveau des journaux appelant les membres du public, les ONG, à faire des propositions. Monsieur le Président, de toute façon, une fois que nous aurons l'occasion d'avoir la final bill de l'Attorney General's Office, bien sûr, les membres auront l'occasion de prendre connaissance de ce bill-là.
Le ministre pourrait-il donner un time frame un peu plus précis, étant donné que l'année dernière, il avait dit que le projet de loi serait présenté au Parlement avant fin 2022 et nous sommes déjà presque fin 2023. Donc pourrait-il être plus précis quant au time frame?
Oui, comme j'ai expliqué à la Chambre, Monsieur le Président, c'est une réforme en profondeur qu'on est en train d'apporter à l'Environment Protection Act, qui est la loi cadre en ce qui concerne la protection de l'environnement. De l'avis de l'Attorney General's Office, ils auraient souhaité venir de l'avant avec un New Act en ce qui concerne le Environment Protection Act et non pas faire ce qu'on appelle des piecemeal amendments. Donc c'est la raison pour laquelle que cela prend un peu plus de temps, mais je peux rassurer la Chambre que nous sommes arrivés à un stade de finalisation en ce qui concerne le New Environment Protection Act et donc je pense que très prochainement, j'aurai le privilège d'apporter cette réforme en profondeur au niveau de la Chambre.
Next question, MP Omia.
1744.
MP.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed that beach users are required to submit an application for authorization of the beach authority for use of public beaches, particularly where facilities such as showers and toilets are required. A refund deposit of 3,000 rupees is then requested from the user. Section 6.1a of the Beach Authority Use of Public Beach Regulations of 2004, under which authorizations are granted by the Beach Authority, provides for the payment of a refundable deposit fee of 3,000 rupees. This fee is refunded after the activity, subject to the beach being reinstated to its former state to the satisfaction of the Beach Authority. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed that there have been in the past several cases of vandalism and other damages caused to public toilets, especially during the night. The deposit fee is meant to be used to make good of any damage caused by the users. Otherwise, the deposit fee is refunded. Moreover, a copy of the authorization to use public beach is forwarded to the Commissioner of Police to ensure the safety and security of beach users. In fact, camping is free and can be carried out on any public beach. Therefore, the question of waiving does not really arise.
Thank you. While you are at it, can the Honourable Minister specify whether there will be any designated areas around public beaches in Mauritius where the facilities of toilet, water and appropriate lighting are available, particularly for those who cannot afford luxury bungalows?
Those who cannot afford?
Luxury bungalows.
Ah. Et je ne sais pas si l'honorable est en train de faire référence au bungalow d'Albion, mais ou bien Roche-Noire. Donc, ce que je peux rassurer, en tout cas, l'honorablement, ce que je peux rassurer l'honorablement, c'est que nous sommes en train de travailler sur les designated areas au niveau du ministère de l'Environnement et aussi, bien sûr, au niveau de la Beach Authority. Et cela se fait dans l'optique pour qu'on puisse gérer d'une façon harmonieuse les plages mauriciennes, parce que je pense que c'est un peu l'avis qui est partagé par tous les membres de cette auguste assemblée, c'est que c'est vrai que nous avons des plages qui sont relativement propres, mais que quand même il y appartient quand même qu'on puisse venir de l'avant d'une façon ordonnée, désigner des endroits où on pourra faire éventuellement du camping, éventuellement faire aussi permettre à ce que les beach hawkers puissent opérer dans les meilleures conditions possibles et où tous les aspects en ce qui concerne le health and safety puissent être pris en considération.
Next question, MP Wuchit.
B 1745.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the Solid Waste Management Division of the Ministry of Environment, Solid Waste Management and Climate Change that a consultancy study for the preparation of a new solid waste management and resource recovery system for Mauritius was awarded to an international consultant, Tractable and Angie, and was implemented in 2 phases. Phase 1, preparation of the strategy and action plan, including a baseline review and an analysis of the strategic option and recommendation. Phase 2, feasibility study of regional composting plant and sorting units. The recommendation of the feasibility study report have focused on resource recovery and recycling through a sourced segregation program where the organic fraction, that is food and green waste, will be composted and the dry fraction sent to the sorting unit for recycling or exportation on a public-private partnership. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the Ministry of Environment that a transaction advisor was recruited to prepare a request for proposal document for the setting up and operation of an integrated waste processing facility comprising a composting plant, a sorting unit, and refuse-derived fuel plant as an optional component on PPP basis. The RFP document was launched on the 3rd of November 2022, and the closing date for the bid submission was 20th of April 2023. The bids have been evaluated. The Solid Waste Management Division is in the process of setting up a negotiating team to negotiate with the preferred bidders. It is expected that the contract for the financing, design, build, and operate of the integrated waste processing facility for a period of 25 years would be awarded by early next year, and the integrated waste processing facility would be operational by the first quarter of 2026. Mr. Speaker, sir, a legal framework for the effective and efficient collection of sorted waste, which will enable the operation of the integrated waste processing facility, is being developed by the Ministry of Environment in collaboration with my ministry. Several consultations were held with the local authorities for the drafting of the legal framework since 5th of July 2023. A validation workshop on the proposed regulation pertaining to the solid waste segregation at source was held on the 28th of August 2023, where the draft regulation worked out by the Solid Waste Management Division and the UNDP consultant was circulated to all stakeholders. A meeting with all stakeholders was held on the 18th of October 2023, whereby the reviewing of the draft regulation on the segregation of solid waste at source was completed. The draft regulation was extensively discussed, and consensus could not be reached with regard to many provisions in the regulation. A further meeting has been scheduled on the 22nd of December 2023 at my ministry with representatives from Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, and all the 12 local authorities to sort out these issues. Mr. Speaker, sir, the local authorities will be called upon to procure and deploy appropriate bins, personnel, vehicle for the collection and storage of the segregated waste in an effective manner.
How will the effectiveness of this collaboration be measured and evaluated? Is there any plans in place to conduct regular assessment of the segregated waste collection initiatives, about the progress and the success rate?
Naturally, this is going to be a long process. It's not going to be one of things that's going to be done. I mean, the Ministry of Environment, local government are working together, and as we go along, naturally, it's going to be step by step. For example, we are going to have this. We have to sort out in terms of personnel, the vehicles, the type of bin we are going to have, and then we have the education of the public as well. I mean, all these are important, and it's going to take a long time, and this is going to be discussed among the different ministries, different stakeholders, to make sure that it is implemented in the best possible way.
Is there any time frame to implement all this?
It's going to take a bit of time. I must say, we have mentioned about 2026. It can be around this time, because even just for the education of the public, that would take about easily 2 years, 2.5 years. I mean, for maybe about 14 weeks before implementation of that project, and to continue after the implementation of the project. So it's going to be a long project, kind of with a project which is going to spread over a long time, actually.
The table has been advised that PQ B1747, B1750 have been withdrawn.
Next question.
Next question.
B1746.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to inform the House that the Quality Assurance and Inspection Division of my ministry gathers and analyzes data in respect of the summative internal assessment of students of all grades in all secondary schools. All state secondary schools submit data on the performance of all students in all grades at the end of each term in each subject, including the end-of-year assessment. The Quality Assurance Division, based on the findings, identifies gaps and provides guidance on necessary pedagogical measures to be adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. May I ask the Honourable Minister, how far is it true, or are you aware that rectors have had to review the promotion criteria, that is the promotion from grade 10 to grade 11, in order to ensure that schools, state secondary schools, have the required number of students to run grade 11 classes?
Mr. Speaker, sir, no such information has been conveyed to my office.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. May I ask you whether you're contemplating in the years to come to organize a standardized assessment in grade 10 for the different subjects in the different state secondary schools, so that all the papers in all the state secondary schools are standardized?
No, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Next question, MP Navamari.
B1748.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed that the Community Child Protection Program was introduced to provide surveillance of children who are exposed to any form of violence. It operates through regional level networks of volunteers, social workers, NGOs, community leaders, and other stakeholders. The program focuses primarily on building capacity of community people to detect and safeguard our children who are vulnerable and more exposed to risk and abuse. Mr. Speaker, sir, since January of 2018, in a bid to further improve the proximity of the program to the community, the Community Child Protection Program was handed over to the Sugar Industry Labour Welfare Fund, which is responsible for the management and operation of all community centres across the island. All the community development officers posted thereat have been trained by officers of my ministry so that they can run this program well. And in addition, they have also been empowered to provide proximity service in respect of child safeguarding and surveillance in the community. The program was further enhanced in the same year with the setting up of the Community Child Watch Committee to ensure early detection and reporting of cases involving children at higher risk. Officers of the various units of my ministry also, as and when required, attend these committees which are being held in most community centres covering 50 regions throughout the island. The Sugar Industry Labour Welfare Fund is considering the extension of the programme for next year to 10 additional regions. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am further informed that for this year, 263 meetings have been held, 175 activities reaching some 5,000 children have been organised by the Sugar Industry Labour Welfare Fund.
Next question,
B 1749.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the first leg of the match between Mauritius and Angola for the FIFA World Cup 2026 Group D qualifiers took place on 21st November 2023 at the Côte d'Or National Sports Complex. The football stadium is duly homologated by FIFA and CAF. These international football governing bodies are the sole authorities responsible for deciding the venue in collaboration with the Mauritius Football Association, MFA, where the game is to be played. The MFA sought our consent for the use of this venue, which is their preferred choice due to the modernity of its infrastructure, the quality of its artificial turf pitch, where the Mauritius national team displays a higher level of competitiveness and plays better football. With regard to part 1 of the question, I'm informed by the MMIL that the seating capacity at the Côte d'Or Football Stadium is as follows. Public stand wing A, 2,000 seats. Public stand wing B, 2,000 seats. VVIP stand 175 seats. VIP stand 250 seats. Total number of seats 4,425. With regard to part 2 of the question, I'm informed by the MFA that the number of tickets sold was 3,725 out of 4,000, priced at 100 rupees each. Additionally, 275 complimentary tickets were distributed among football stakeholders, including national clubs, regional football associations, Club M players and staff. With regard to part B of the question, the fact remains that there are no viable alternatives for hosting international matches other than the Côte d'Or National Sports Complex unless inspections of other stadiums are conducted by CAF and FIFA. Thank you.
Monsieur le Président, j'ai bien écouté la réponse de l'honorable ministre. Et peut-on savoir ce qu'il en est des stades Anjali Kupen et Georges V? Est-ce qu'ils sont toujours homologués par la FIFA? Et peut-on savoir pourquoi ces deux stades ne sont plus utilisés pour les matchs du Club M?
Monsieur le Président, je vais répondre par la dernière partie avant. Donc, dans ma réponse initiale, comme je l'ai dit, la FIFA et la CAF ont vérifié les différents stades et avec la MFA, ils ont porté leur choix sur le stade de Côte d'Or, qui est tout à fait un choix judicieux vu que c'est un complexe moderne. Et en ce qui s'agit du stade Georges V et Anjali, je dois vérifier l'information pour savoir quand est-ce que ces instances ont fait leur inspection pour dire si ces deux stades sont toujours homologués ou pas. Mais cependant, comme je l'ai dit, c'est avec la Fédération de football de Maurice, le choix préféré reste le complexe sportif de Côte d'Or.
Malheureusement, l'honorable ministre n'a pas répondu d'une façon claire à ma question. Et ma question, je la répète. En ce qui concerne ces deux stades, Angela Coupen et Georges V, en tant que ministre, il devrait le savoir, je pense, est-ce que ces deux stades sont homologués actuellement par la FIFA et pourquoi, si tel est le cas, aucun des matchs? Je peux comprendre la modernité de Côte d'Or, mais n'empêche que ces deux stades peuvent contenir un plus grand nombre de spectateurs.
Monsieur le Président, est-ce que moi j'ai besoin de me répéter pour expliquer quel est le process pour que la Fédération de football de Maurice, avec la CAF, décide de jouer un match international à tel ou tel stade? Par rapport à Angela Coupen et Georges V, je ne vais pas m'aventurer parce que la question initiale n'était pas sur Georges V et Angela Coupen pour dire s'ils sont toujours homologués ou pas. L'homologation d'un stade est basée sur les inspections et les visites de la CAF et bien sûr avec la Fédération nationale de football. Et je le redis, le choix préféré, et je pense que le public mauricien qui était en grand nombre pour venir soutenir le club M à Côte d'Or, ils ont été ravis d'être dans un stade moderne avec un terrain synthétique idéal pour que nos équipes, pour que nos joueurs puissent faire un très bon match contre un géant qu'est l'Angola. Bon, si l'honorable membre n'est pas satisfait de ça, je laisse les 4000 spectateurs qui étaient venus à Côte d'Or faire leur propre déduction de cela.
Time over.
Motion.
Prime Minister, motion.
Mais qu'est-ce que...
What is happening?
Je ne vous ai pas adressé la parole.
Order, order.
Je ne vous ai pas adressé la parole, honorable membre.
Order, both sides.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10.
Seconded. The question is that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10. Those in favor say aye, those against say no. Aye. Ayes have it.
Statements by ministers none. Public bill, second reading.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that the Financial Crimes Commission Bill number 20 of 2023 be read a second time. Mr. Speaker, sir, the presentation of this bill today marks a major milestone in our relentless fight against corruption and other financial crimes, and bears testimony to our steadfast resolve to eradicate malpractices and irregularities from all aspects of public life and consolidate our national values. This bill indeed demonstrates our unflinching commitment and determination to pursue our corruption-free agenda and to continue enhancing the reputation of Mauritius as a clean jurisdiction and consolidate its position as a significant player in the global financial system. Mr. Speaker, sir, the setting up of the Financial Crimes Commission, FCC, as an apex body to fight financial crimes in Mauritius first appeared in our government program of 2015-2019. As a matter of fact, on acceding to power in December 2014, the new government, under the leadership of late Sanirudh Jagannath, promised to manage the affairs of the state on the principles of transparency, accountability, and exemplary governance. The government had also promised the nation to free our society from the shackles of widespread corruption, fraud, and favoritism that had characterized the two successive mandates of the Labour Party-led government. We had a clear mandate from the people to clean up the mess left by the previous government. And on the strength of that trust of the people, the government took a strong commitment to eradicate fraud, corruption, malpractices, and irregularities that had plagued all aspects of public life in our country over the preceding 9 long years. On our re-election in 2019, we renewed our commitment to further strengthen our democracy and governance framework by intensifying our fight against fraud and corruption with zero tolerance of corrupt practices. We also renewed our pledge to introduce appropriate coordination mechanism to ensure interagency cooperation to combat economic and financial crimes. Mr. Speaker, sir, with a view to fulfilling our commitment for the setting up of a Financial Crimes Commission, a national committee was set up under the chair of the Financial Secretary to make appropriate recommendations to the government in that regard. The National Committee was supported by a technical working group comprising representatives from different ministries, departments, and institutions concerned. Following extensive consultations, a paper was prepared and submitted by the National Committee outlining its proposals for the setting up of a Financial Crimes Commission. The Attorney General's office was subsequently requested to prepare a draft bill on the basis of the paper submitted by the National Committee. Once the first draft of the bill was ready, a second phase of consultation was engaged with all relevant stakeholders, including the Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, the Ministry of Financial Services and Good Governance, the Bank of Mauritius, the Financial Services Commission, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Police Department, the ICAC, the Mauritius Revenue Authority, the Financial Intelligence Unit, and the Integrity Reporting Services Agency. All the submissions received were carefully examined, and some of them were retained, and the draft bill was reviewed in the light thereof, and thereafter submitted for final approval of government before its introduction into the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, sir, as the House is aware, financial crimes have drastically changed in recent times as a result of increasing financial globalization, coupled with the pervasive nature of highly innovative and constantly evolving technology. Illicit assets derived from the technology-based financial criminal activities are moved across multiple jurisdictions at the click of a button, thus presenting huge challenges for law enforcement agencies in chasing those criminals and their assets across the globe. Financial crimes, therefore, remain a significant and constantly evolving threat to national security and social stability, with a capacity to undermine our institutions and our democratic values and principles, and the rule of law. They constitute a threat, in particular, to the most vulnerable groups in our society, and also jeopardize economic performance and development. Countries, therefore, need to regularly uplift their financial crime framework so as to maintain its effectiveness, and Mauritius is no exception. Mr. Speaker, sir, insofar as Mauritius is concerned, I must say that since 2015, the government has been taking numerous bold and effective measures in order to enhance transparency and accountability and reinforce our overall governance framework. Before delving into the FCC bill, I think it is fitting for me to remind the House of some of these measures. Mr. Speaker, sir, as the House is aware, the Eastern and Southern Africa Anti-Money Laundering Group, commonly known by the acronym of ESAMLAG, had released its mutual evaluation report on Mauritius in 2018, in which it had identified certain strategic shortcomings in our AML-CFT regime. I must say that the deficiencies identified in the MER report of 2018 were the result of the inaction and lack of foresight of the previous government, and which we inherited in 2014. I wish to remind that the MER report of 2008 had already identified several deficiencies, in particular regarding the AML-CFT regulation of the designated non-financial businesses and professions, including casinos, real estate agents, and legal and accounting professionals. However, the then government failed to address those deficiencies. Worse still, in 2012, the FATF reviewed its recommendations and countries were requested to initiate actions to ensure compliance with the revised recommendations, which subsequently came to be known as the 40 FATF recommendations. But again, no action was initiated by the then government, and this resulted in modest ratings for Mauritius in the 2018 MER report, which in fact rated Mauritius as being compliant with only 14 out of the 40 FATF recommendations. In contrast, in 2018, immediately after the release of the 2018 MER report, the government embarked on an ambitious exercise to overhaul our AML-CFT framework in order to comply with the FATF standards in terms of both technical compliance and effectiveness during the one-year observation period from October 2018 to October 2019. This exercise resulted, amongst other things, in the adoption and implementation of a comprehensive national AML-CFT strategy and a national action plan. Mauritius was subsequently rated as compliant or largely compliant with 35 out of 40 FATF recommendations. In February 2020, the FATF acknowledged the significant progress made by Mauritius since the adoption of its MER, but also noted that some strategic shortcomings remained, and Mauritius was required to address those deficiencies within an agreed time frame. Mr. Speaker, sir, the government immediately made a high-level political commitment to work with the FATF to further strengthen the effectiveness of its AML-CFT regime and prioritize the implementation of the FATF action plan. At the same time, Mauritius worked closely with the ESAMLAG and also benefited from technical assistance from the latter as well as from UK, France, the EU AML-CFT Global Facility, the German Agency for International Cooperation, the IMF, the UNODC, the World Bank, and other international organizations, with the aim of strengthening the capacity of our competent authorities and providing relevant guidance in the implementation of their AML-CFT obligations. I must say that this assistance has been instrumental in addressing the strategic deficiencies identified in the Mauritian AML-CFT regime. In addition, the close collaboration between the competent authorities and the private sector operators was pivotal during this process. Over the course of several FATF plenary meetings, Mauritius submitted 4 progress reports detailing the actions it had taken to complete each action item. The House will also recall that, in the same context, the Anti-Money Laundering and Combating the Financing of Terrorism Miscellaneous Provisions Act 2020 was passed by the National Assembly on 7th of July 2020, through which 19 pieces of legislation were amended to effectively address evolving risks and further strengthen our overall governance framework. Several other measures were taken to address the deficiencies identified and consolidate our AML CFT regime. Mr. Speaker, sir, in October 2021, the FATF concluded that Mauritius would no longer be subject to increased monitoring as the country had made significant progress in strengthening the effectiveness of its AML CFT regime and had addressed the related technical deficiencies to meet the commitments in its action plan. Consequently, Mauritius was removed from the FATF grey list. In fact, Mauritius managed to exit from the grey list in a record 18 months' time. Mauritius is now compliant, or largely compliant, with all the 40 FATF recommendations. The FATF and the international community have recognized Mauritius as an improved and effective AML CFT jurisdiction through measures adopted and well-performing institutions. This removal from the grey list was a much-awaited and welcome boost for Mauritius, as it not only allowed the country to regain its position amongst the leaders in the global financial services industry, but also reinforced our position as a leading investment destination, playing a key role in facilitating FDI into the African continent. Mr. Speaker, sir, soon after Mauritius was removed from the FATF grey list, it was also removed from the UK list of high-risk third countries in November 2021. Subsequently, on 7th January 2022, the European Commission also removed Mauritius from its list of high-risk third countries, acknowledging that it no longer presented strategic deficiencies on the basis of the criteria laid down in EU Directive 2015/849. It is noteworthy that upon the exit of Mauritius from the EU blacklist, the EU Commission delegated regulation of 7th of January 2022 mentioned, and I quote, "The FATF welcomes significant progress made by Botswana, Ghana, and Mauritius in improving its AML CFT regime, and noted that Botswana, Ghana, and Mauritius have established the legal and regulatory framework to meet the commitments in their action plans regarding the strategic deficiencies that the FATF had identified. The Commission's analysis concluded that the Bahamas, Botswana, Ghana, Iraq, and Mauritius no longer have strategic deficiencies in their AML CFT regime, considering the available information. The Bahamas, Botswana, Ghana, Iraq, and Mauritius have strengthened the effectiveness of their AML CFT regime. These measures are sufficiently comprehensive and meet the necessary requirements to consider that strategic deficiencies identified under Article 9 of the Directive of EU 2015/849 have been removed," unquote. Mr. Speaker, sir, this remark by the EU is an acknowledgement and recognition of our efforts and commitment to enhance transparency and accountability and fight financial crimes, and also of our willingness to fulfill our international obligations. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have achieved a lot more over the last couple of years. We have enacted, amongst others, a comprehensive legislation to regulate virtual assets and initial token offerings, aligned with FATF standards, and conducted a risk assessment on virtual assets and service providers. We have achieved a largely compliant rating for FATF recommendation 15 on new technologies. Mauritius has joined the top-tier jurisdictions which are compliant or largely compliant with all the 40 FATF recommendations. We have moved from a recipient of technical assistance to a privileged partner in sharing our experience gained and lessons learned to tackle illicit financial flows. And it is a matter of pride for all of us that Mauritian officers have been providing assistance to countries like Mozambique, Kenya, Tunisia, Jordan, Zambia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Mauritius has also participated in prominent regional and international assignments, and several of our officers are assuming prestigious roles as ESAMLAG assessors, reviewers, and FATF reviewers, highlighting the country's influence and expertise at both regional and international levels. We are actively participating in ESAMLAG projects, including the development of a toolkit for assessing money laundering and terrorist financing risks by legal entities, a project on regional terrorist financing risk assessment, and a survey on the impact of fintech products like virtual assets on inclusive financial integrity in the ESAMLAG region. And Mauritius also hosted the international prestigious conference, namely the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States Conference in January 2023, and FATF Africa Middle East Joint Group meeting in May 2023. These events provided an opportunity for Mauritius to showcase its initiatives in combating money laundering and terrorism financing in Africa. Mr. Speaker, sir, the enactment of the Declaration of Assets Act in 2018 was also a major step ahead in consolidating our anti-corruption framework and fulfilling our international obligations under the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. As the House is aware, certain information on the declaration filed by members of the National Assembly and the Rodrigues Regional Assembly and local councillors are now made accessible to the public through the website of the Independent Commission Against Corruption. Moreover, as from April 2022, the application of the Declaration of Assets Act has been extended to cover every officer of the departmental grade in the Mauritius Prison Service, as recommended by the Commission of Inquiry on Drug Trafficking. The House will also recall that the Statutory Bodies Accounts and Audit Act has been amended, such that all statutory bodies are now required to prepare their accounts under the International Public Sector Accounting Standards accrual framework, which is a fair and transparent mode of reporting. Moreover, government has introduced the Corporate Governance Scoreboard for Mauritius, which is a major milestone in the journey of governance development for the country. It is equally noteworthy that, in addition to numerous other anti-corruption measures taken by ICAC, the latter has also been implementing the public sector anti-corruption framework to formalize the commitment of public bodies in the fight against corruption and to build up the capacity of public bodies to enhance transparency and accountability. In this context, the conduct of 2 corruption risk assessments at the level of each ministry and department has started in financial year 2020-2021 with a view to enhancing transparency and promoting an ethical work culture in the public service. This exercise, which is currently being implemented in all ministries and departments, has been extended to parastatal bodies and state-owned enterprises as from financial year 2021-2022. It is also apposite for me to mention that over the last 3 years, important amendments have been brought to the Prevention of Corruption Act in order to provide for the following: offences committed by a legal person, realization of assets seized or subject of an attachment order, bribery by or of foreign public official, non-tax deductibility of bribes. Mr. Speaker, sir, another important measure which this government has taken to combat financial crimes more effectively is the setting up of a specialized financial crimes division at the level of the Supreme Court and the Intermediate Court, with jurisdiction to hear and determine financial crime offences. The new division ensures that prosecutions in relation to corruption, money laundering, and other financial crime offences are dealt with expeditiously by specialized judges and magistrates. Mr. Speaker, sir, because of its constantly shifting landscape, the fight against financial crimes is a never-ending battle. There is therefore a need for us to periodically reassess our current disposition so as to ascertain that it is still fit for purpose. As a matter of fact, there are still some areas of concern in our present financial crime framework which need to be addressed. There is a need, for example, for more coordination and cooperation among the existing law enforcement agencies dealing with financial crimes, for better investigations and prosecution outcomes and deliverables. In fact, this is a matter that was highlighted in the report of the Commission of Inquiry on Drug Trafficking, which consequently called for a more holistic approach in the fight against financial crimes for the sake of greater effectiveness. Let me quote the observation made in the report in relation to the present legal and organizational setup in the fight against corruption and money laundering. I quote, "A reading of the various legislation revealed that there is an overlapping of functions, and the Commission recommends the review of all those legislations so that all of them be grouped under one umbrella with specialized divisions in different fields, which would lead to optimizing the use of personnel, administrative costs, and data collection in a mega database in compliance with international norms, the more so that many of those commissions have their counterparts in other countries," unquote. Mr. Speaker, sir, there is also a need to provide our law enforcement agencies with the necessary powers and tools to enable them to investigate fully and effectively the new and complex types of financial crime scams, including financing of drug dealing and the new breed of criminal enterprises that exist today, and bring them promptly before the courts to answer for their misdeeds. Mr. Speaker, sir, delays in bringing the perpetrators of serious commercial and financial crimes to justice, or failure to secure a conviction, have potentially harmful consequences, not only for the unfortunate victims, but also for the reputation of our jurisdiction as a whole. Therefore, the focus should now be on effectiveness, that is, on results and outcomes. And this is what Mauritius is going to be assessed upon by the FATF in 2027. And this is precisely what we want to achieve through this bill. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me now briefly explain the salient features of this bill. As indicated in the explanatory memorandum, the object of the bill is to provide for the establishment of the Financial Crimes Commission as the apex agency in Mauritius to combat financial crimes such as corruption offenses, money laundering offenses, fraud offenses, the financing of drug dealing offenses, and any other ancillary offense connected thereto. This marks a radical shift from a dispersed and disaggregated system to a more holistic approach to combating financial crimes, a strategy which, I must say, was endorsed by the ESAMLAG in its 2018 evaluation report on Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I stated earlier, the financial crime law enforcement system in Mauritius and its agencies had been the subject of criticisms by the Commission of Inquiry on Drug Trafficking for operating in silos within a disjointed and dispersed framework where cooperation was almost inexistent. As an example, investigation on the one hand and asset forfeiture and recovery on the other hand are currently being carried out by different agencies, and coordination amongst those agencies has been weak. It is considered that outcome in terms of investigation and prosecution could have been better in a centralized and well-coordinated framework. Being given that asset forfeiture and recovery are important components in the chain of investigation, the Financial Crimes Commission will now be empowered to carry out both investigation into financial crimes and asset forfeiture and recovery for a more effective fight against financial crimes. I must add that in its post-delisting recommendations, the FATF had indeed advised Mauritius to strengthen its efforts in ensuring that money laundering cases are dealt with as a priority and in a timely manner so as to maintain the effectiveness of its regime. In this respect, it was suggested that efforts be made to ensure clearer division of responsibilities between the law enforcement agencies in order to avoid overlap during investigations, as well as overwhelmingly files being brought before the court. The bill is therefore providing for a new, robust, harmonized, modern, and more appropriate structure that will give new strength to and enhance the effectiveness of our fight against financial crimes. As such, the Financial Crimes Commission will take over the functions and powers of the Independent Commission Against Corruption under the Prevention of Corruption Act and the Declaration of Assets Act, the Asset Recovery and Investigation Division of the Financial Intelligence Unit under the Asset Recovery Act, the Integrity Reporting Services Agency under the Good Governance and Integrity Reporting Act. Accordingly, the Prevention of Corruption Act, the Asset Recovery Act, and the Good Governance and Integrity Reporting Act will be repealed and replaced by this new legal framework. However, the existing provisions of the Prevention of Corruption Act, the Asset Recovery Act, and the Good Governance and Integrity Reporting Act are not only being retained, but are also being reinforced in this new legal framework. In addition, the FCC will be depository of all declarations made under the Declaration of Assets Act, except for the Director General, Commissioners, and officers of the FCC, who shall be required to file their declaration of assets with the Mauritius Revenue Authority. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to underline here that the Financial Intelligence Unit will not be integrated in this new umbrella organization and will continue to operate separately and will focus on its main mandate for which it was established, that is, to gather and disseminate financial intelligence and for suspicious transactions to be reported to it. Mr. Speaker, sir, another noteworthy change that is being proposed is in relation to the definition of relative in the interpretation clause. In fact, with a view to preventing offences with regard to conflict of interest, the definition of relative in relation to a person has been enlarged to include inter alia A, the son or daughter of either the brother or sister of that person or the spouse, and B, the brother or sister of either the mother or father of that person or the spouse. Clause 5 of the bill makes provision for the setting up of different divisions within the Commission as follows. 1. An investigation division comprising the Financial Crimes Investigation Unit and the Financing of Drug Dealing Investigation Unit. 2. An Asset Recovery and Management Division comprising the Asset Recovery Unit, the Declaration of Assets Unit, and the Unexplained Wealth Unit. 3. An Education and Preventive Division. 4. A Legal Division. And 5. Such other divisions as the Commission may, with the approval of the Minister, set up. Except for the Legal Division, every other division will be headed by a director. The Legal Division will be headed by a Chief Legal Advisor. Clause 6 defines the powers and functions of the FCC. In the discharge of its functions under the new law, the Commission will be responsible inter alia for A. Detecting and investigating into any offence under the Act, including offences related to the financing of drug dealing. B. Conducting investigations regarding asset recovery and for recovering and managing assets, which are proceeds or instrumentalities, including terrorist properties of offences under the Act. C. Detecting and investigating into offences under the Declaration of Assets Act. D. Detecting and investigating into unexplained wealth. E. Preventing and educating the public against financial crimes. F. Prosecuting any offence under this Act and any offence under the Declaration of Assets Act. And G. Doing such other things as may be necessary to fight financial crimes. Mr. Speaker, sir, Clause 7 of the bill sets out the composition of the Commission and the manner by which the commissioners are to be appointed. The Commission will consist of the Director General as chairperson and 4 other commissioners. The commissioners shall be appointed by the President of the Republic on the advice of the Prime Minister, tendered after consultation with the Leader of the Opposition. Clause 10 provides that the Director General shall also be appointed by the President, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister, tendered after the Prime Minister has consulted the Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is to be noted that under the existing Prevention of Corruption Act, the Director General and the board members of the ICAC are appointed by the Prime Minister after consultation with the Leader of the Opposition. And the House will recall that this mode of appointment was introduced in 2006 when the then appointment committee was abolished. Although there may not be anything wrong per se with this single branch mode of appointment through the appointment committee, which, by the way, is recognized and accepted internationally, it has unfortunately given rise to unjustified criticisms about alleged perception of political interference and lack of independence. The bill is therefore proposing to align the mode of appointment of the commissioners and of the Director General of the FCC with other comparable constitutional and statutory positions, such as the chairperson and members of the National Human Rights Commission, the chairperson and members of the Equal Opportunities Commission, the chairperson and members of the Competition Commission, amongst others. Moreover, as the House is aware, under the existing PUCA, the board of the ICAC is chaired by the Director General. Likewise, in regard to the Financial Crimes Commission, the bill provides that the Commission shall be chaired by the Director General. It is considered that this arrangement will enable greater operational efficiency and effectiveness, which will now be a key performance indicator, and we therefore propose to maintain this arrangement in view of the specific nature of the investigatory and prosecutorial powers and functions of the FCC. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is also noteworthy that in order to safeguard the independence of the Director General of the FCC, the bill is maintaining the same security of tenure that the Director General of the ICAC now enjoys under the PUCA. The procedure for the termination of the appointment of the Director General of the FCC is therefore being maintained as in Section 23 of PUCA, which vests the power of termination in the Parliament for corruption offences and money laundering offences. Most of the withdrawal of tenders at clause 28, B, corruption in relation to sporting events at clause 35, C, fraud offences at clause 39 to 44, and D, financing drug dealing offences, clause 45. Clause 28 is criminalizing the offer or acceptance by any person of a gratification for the withdrawal of a tender or for refraining from submitting a tender in relation to any contract with a public body. In relation to sporting events, clause 35 is criminalizing the acceptance or offer of a gratification for influencing the run of play or outcome of any sport event. Regarding fraud offences, the bill is criminalizing inter alia the following: fraud by false pretend representation, fraud by failing to disclose information, making or supplying articles for use in fraud, fraud by abuse of position, and electronic fraud. Clause 45 is criminalizing the financing of or deriving a profit or commission from specified drug dealing activities. Mr. Speaker, sir, Part 4 of the bill provides for the detection and investigation of financial crimes and other offences. Clause 62 specifies the circumstances in which the Commission can direct its officers to arrest a person. I must point out here that the Commission will have less, not more, powers of arrest than the ICAC presently has under Section 53 of the PUCA. In fact, powers of arrest, except for the limited situations specified in Clause 62, will continue to rest with the Commissioner of Police. Mr. Speaker, sir, with a view to enhancing the effectiveness of investigations and prosecutions of financial crimes by the FCC, Clause 63 of the bill is empowering the Commission to request any financial institution to provide such customer information, including details of financial transactions. Regard to the difficulty, I would like to mention here the observations made by the Commission of Inquiry on Drugs Trafficking, which were as follows, and I quote, information, thus the necessity of reviewing the methodology of investigation, for in the absence of credible information from which can be distilled intelligence, the chance of successful prosecution will no doubt be low compared to the huge costs which had to be invested in personnel and equipment, unquote. Mr. Speaker, sir, I must underline, however, that this power under Clause 63 is subject to judicial check, as an order from the judge in chambers will be required before exercising this power. Moreover, this power is not meant for general application. It can only be exercised where the Commission has reasonable grounds to suspect that any property in the possession or under the control of a person is proceeds, an instrumentality, or a terrorist property. The customer information is likely to be of substantial value to an application made under this Act or an investigation being carried out by the Commission, and it is in the public interest that the customer information be provided. I also wish to underline the fact that the ICAC is vested with similar powers to obtain financial information under Section 64(9) of the Banking Act. For similar reason, Clause 65 is empowering the Commission to apply to a judge in chambers for a telecommunication order, ordering any public operator to intercept, withhold, or disclose to the Commission any information for the purpose of an investigation. Here also, it is to be noted that the ICAC is presently vested with similar power under Section 32(6) of the Information and Communication Technologies Act. Moreover, with a view to preventing and detecting financial crimes offences, Clause 66 of the bill is empowering the FCC to make use under judicial control of special investigative techniques comprising inter alia, intrusive surveillance and equipment interception for the purpose of gathering intelligence or evidence. Such tools and techniques are considered to be essential if we are to enhance the effectiveness of our fight against financial crimes, especially in this digital era. Mr. Speaker, sir, Part 5 of the bill provides for criminal and civil-based asset recovery, and Part 6 deals with unexplained wealth. Regarding asset recovery, according to the FATF Best Practices paper on confiscation, that is Recommendations 4 and 38, and a framework for ongoing work on asset recovery, countries should, at the domestic level, implement mechanisms to coordinate asset tracing and financial investigations with a view to ensuring that such efforts are not impeded by regionalized or fragmented systems or competing local priorities. Our existing asset recovery framework faces challenges stemming from its fragmented structure, leading to procedural complexities and implementation issues. Recognizing the imperative for a more streamlined and effective approach, the FCC bill is proposing a transformative solution in the form of a singular and comprehensive legal framework. The unified approach embodied in the bill addresses the shortcomings of the current system by creating a single institution empowered to handle both civil and criminal aspects of asset seizure, freezing and confiscation, and dealing with unexplained wealth. This unified legislation will not only resolve operational challenges, but also ensure a more robust mechanism for combating financial crimes while ensuring economic use of resources. In regard to asset management, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime has, in its 2021 feasibility report on asset management capacity and needs to track, monitor, and administer frozen and recovered assets in Mauritius, recommended, amongst others, the setting up of an asset management office to centrally manage seized assets, as currently no agency has the overall mandate to manage all seized and confiscated assets in Mauritius. In this respect, Clause 5(1)(b) of the FCC bill provides for establishment of an asset recovery and management division consisting of 3 integral units, namely the Asset Recovery Unit, the Declaration of Assets Unit, and the Unexplained Wealth Unit. These units collectively hold distinct yet interconnected responsibilities. They will be charged with the crucial task of recovering and managing assets, including those identified as proceeds or instrumentalities of offenses committed under the Act, or any other relevant enactment, including terrorist properties. Together, these units form a comprehensive framework with the Asset Recovery and Management Division, aligning with the FCC's overarching goal of enhancing our capabilities to combat financial crimes effectively. Mr. Speaker, sir, Part 7 of the bill makes provision for the protection of and assistance to informers and witnesses in line with international best practices for protection of whistleblowers. Clause 123, in fact, provides that the identity of an informer and the information imparted shall be secret between the Commission and the informer, and all matters relating to such information shall be privileged and shall not be disclosed in any proceedings before any court, tribunal, or any other authority. Moreover, informers and witnesses are protected against civil and criminal liability. Clause 125 is also introducing a witness protection scheme to assist endangered persons. Mr. Speaker, sir, the independence and accountability of the FCC are two sine qua non conditions to reinforce public trust, legitimacy, and credibility of the Commission. In order to ensure greater effectiveness, the adoption of a consolidated and holistic institutional setup should guarantee the independence of the institutions together with a strong accountability mechanism regarding the different aspects of its work. Any risk of abuse of power, perceived or real, can be eliminated by incorporating strong checks and balances and proper oversight and accountability. Accordingly, it was felt that while it is important to ensure the independence of the institution, appropriate accountability and oversight mechanisms should be established to create the right balance. As a matter of fact, the UNODC advocates both internal and external accountability mechanisms to prevent any abuse of power by anti-corruption agencies. Mr. Speaker, sir, the House will recall that the Prevention of Corruption Act 2002 had established a committee which was called the Operations Review Committee, whose remit was precisely to receive or call for reports from the then Commissioner and advise the ICAC on complaints received on status of investigations. However, for one reason or another, the committee was scrapped in 2006 again, thus creating a gap in the accountability mechanism of the ICAC. We are today plugging that gap by reinstating the Operations Review Committee in line with the requirements of the OECD. Accordingly, Part 8 of the bill, clauses 126 to 128, is making provision for an Operations Review Committee as an independent oversight mechanism that will advise the Commission on the number and the manner in which the following are inter alia dealt with. A, complaints of any offense under this Act made to the Commission. B, investigations being carried out by the Commission and which have lasted more than 12 months. C, the exercise by the Commission of its investigatory powers. D, all cases where suspects have been provisionally charged for more than 12 months. And E, investigations which the Commission has completed and discontinued. The Operations Review Committee will consist of a chairperson, who shall be a retired judge of the Supreme Court or a law practitioner of at least 10 years standing, a deputy chairperson, 3 other members, and the Director General, the Director of the Investigation Division, the Director of the Asset Recovery and Management Division, and the Chief Legal Advisor, who shall be ex officio members with no right to vote. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Operations Review Committee will be empowered to call for and receive any information, documents, or report from the Director General in the discharge of its functions. Moreover, in order to guarantee their independence, the members of the Operations Review Committee, other than the ex officio members, shall be appointed by the President, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister, tendered after consultation with the leader of the opposition. Mr. Speaker, sir, Part 9 of the bill, clauses 1 to 9 to 131, is providing for a parliamentary committee to monitor and review the general manner in which the FCC will discharge its functions and exercise its powers under the Act, other than matters falling within the purview of the Operations Review Committee. In fact, the bill is maintaining the provisions regarding the powers and functions of the Parliamentary Committee as contained in the present Prevention of Corruption Act. Part 10 of the bill provides for coordination and cooperation among law enforcement agencies and partnership between public and private sector in combating financial crimes. In fact, clause 132 of the bill is making provision for the setting up of a National Coordination Committee, which will, inter alia, coordinate criminal inquiries with law enforcement authorities in relation to parallel and complex cases, and assist in overcoming any challenges in order to ensure effective disposal of such inquiries. National Coordination Committee will consist of the Director General as chairperson, the Solicitor General or his representative, the Director of Public Prosecutions or his representative, the Commissioner of Police or his representative, the Director General of the Mauritius Revenue Authority or his representative, the Governor of the Bank of Mauritius or his representative, the Chief Executive of the Financial Services Commission or his representative, the Chief Executive of the Gambling Regulatory Authority or his representative, and the Director of the Financial Intelligence Unit or his representative. Clause 135, on the other hand, makes provision for the setting up of a public-private task force, which will be responsible to develop and promote cooperation between the public and private sector in combating financial crimes, amongst others. Apart from the representatives of the relevant public institutions, the task force will also comprise a representative of Business Mauritius, a representative of the Mauritius Bankers Association, a relevant insurance company, and 3 other members from the private sector. Part 11 of the bill deals with offences and penalties applicable for breaches of the Act and compounding of offences, which is a new provision. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is to be noted that clause 142 of the bill is vesting the FCC with the power to institute criminal proceedings as it may consider appropriate for any offence under the Act or the Declaration of Assets Act. It is considered that an enforcement and investigative agency like the FCC should indeed be vested with the power to institute criminal proceedings and conduct and has carriage of its own prosecution independently, as there is a need to deal with financial crime cases with celerity and avoid any undue delay which can compromise the successful outcome. There are different factors which argue in favor of an investigative agency having its own independent prosecution mandate and power. Let me explain. Mr. Speaker, sir, the FCC will be an investigating financial crimes. It will have a full-fledged legal division which will follow and advise the investigations throughout. This is called a prosecution-led investigation, which is recognized and recommended by international organizations such as the FATF in order to ensure that all aspects of an investigation, namely legal, procedural, evidential, and completeness, are respected. Such prosecution-led approach in investigations is likely to render the investigation and any eventual prosecution more effective. If the legal division of the FCC has followed an investigation and has tendered legal advice to the investigation division throughout an investigation process, and has also tendered legal advice at the end of an investigation, after it has considered all evidence in the file, there might not be a need for another lawyer to consider or re-advise the file. This will amount to duplication of work and effort and will result in delay. Once an investigation will be completed and will have benefited from legal scrutiny throughout, it will be tabled before the Commission, which will comprise the Director General and 4 other commissioners, who will be high-caliber professionals and who will consider whether to institute criminal proceedings against a particular suspect by way of majority decision, and this based on legal advice and an investigation which has been under the scrutiny of a legal advisor of the legal division. The composition of the Commission and the powers and functions of the Operations Review Committee, which I mentioned earlier, constitute the inbuilt checks and balances that would ensure fairness in the decision-making process, whether or not to institute a criminal proceeding against a suspect. It is worth recalling that, following the exit of Mauritius from its grey list, the FATF highly recommended to ensure effectiveness in a sustainable manner. This is precisely what we are seeking to achieve. I mentioned earlier the setting up of the Financial Crime Division at the level of the courts, which was a consequence of the FATF International Cooperation Review Group process. Strengthening the financial crime scrutiny process and system is part of the effort to ensure effectiveness in the system. With the coming of the next mutual evaluation in 2027, Mauritius has to be ready to demonstrate sustainability and effectiveness in the system. Mr. Speaker, sir, what is being proposed in clause 142 is not new at all. Several statutory authorities in Mauritius are already vested with prosecutorial powers. For example, Section 4.2 of the Food Act empowers an authorized officer to conduct an inquiry and swear information and conduct prosecution before a magistrate in respect of any offense under the Act or regulations made under the Act. There is no mention in the Act or in any other legislation of any mandatory consent of the DPP for initiating such prosecution. It is to be noted that the constitutional powers of the DPP are not being affected at all. The DPP will retain its powers under Section 72, 3B and C of the Constitution, and can therefore take over and continue or discontinue at any stage any such criminal proceedings instituted by the FCC. Where he decides to discontinue any such proceedings, he may give reasons as he may deem fit for such discontinuance. However, an aggrieved party may apply to the Supreme Court for a judicial review of his decision. Mr. Speaker, sir, Clause 150 of the bill is vesting the Commission with the power to compound any offence committed by any person under the FCC Act or the Declaration of Assets Act. Clause 160 of the bill makes provision for the Director General, the Commissioners, all officers of the Commission, and members of the Operations Review Committee to file a declaration of their assets and liabilities with the Director General of the Mauritius Revenue Authority, including those of their spouse and minor children. The Declaration of Assets Act is being amended accordingly. Clause 166 of the bill makes provisions for consequential amendments to 19 laws so as to align them with the proposed new legislation. Clause 167 of the bill deals with the staffing of the Commission, including the transfer, retirement, re-employment of officers of the Independent Commission Against Corruption, the Asset Recovery Investigation Division, and the Integrity Reporting Services Agency during the transition period. Clause 168 provides that any proceedings, whether judicial or extrajudicial, and any investigation or inquiry started by the Independent Commission Against Corruption, the Asset Recovery Investigation Division, the Integrity Reporting Services Agency, and pending on the commencement of the new legislation to be taken over and continued by the Financial Crimes Commission. In addition, any prosecution instituted under the Prevention of Corruption Act and under Part 3 of the Financial Intelligence and Anti-Money Laundering Act shall continue under these enactments as if they have not been repealed. It is also to be noted that the bill is amending the Declaration of Assets Act to provide for gold coins, virtual assets, work of art exceeding 500,000 rupees in value, as well as Waqf properties to be declared. Mr. Speaker, sir, the finalization of this bill has been a complex and arduous task involving considerable amount of work over an extended period of time and consultations with major stakeholders. There are, however, some minor amendments which I will propose at committee stage of the bill, including the following: in Clause 2, in the definition of repealed enactments in paragraph B, where section 166(8)(b) should rather be read as section 166(9)(b). In clause 126(4)(c), where commissioner will be deleted and replaced by the term member. All the proposed amendments will be circulated shortly. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I stated in my opening remarks, financial crimes have changed drastically in nature over the past years, mainly due to globalization of business activities coupled with rapid advances in technological innovations. Since 2015, the government has taken numerous initiatives to respond to the new realities and exigencies. However, financial crimes remain a complex and ever-evolving phenomenon, and traditional financial crime investigative methodologies are no longer adequate to meet contemporary financial criminal activities. Therefore, countries inevitably have to undertake regular risks assessment in order to address emerging vulnerabilities and ensure that their anti-corruption framework remains relevant and fit for purpose. This is precisely what the government has done, and our response is embodied in the bill we are presenting before the House today. Mr. Speaker, sir, through this bill, the government is not only sending a clear message that it is determined to prevent and combat corruption and other financial crimes, and to protect our society from their corrosive and destructive effects, but is also reaffirming our unequivocal subscription to the core values of democracy, justice, ethics, honesty, accountability, and transparency. The new anti-corruption framework proposed in the bill is grounded in a modern, pragmatic and holistic setup, favoring better synergy among the different agencies, greater agility and greater effectiveness in the fight against financial crimes. We are convinced that the proposed framework addresses to a significant extent the deficiencies in the current setup and can effectively respond to the existing and upcoming challenges. With these words, Mr. Speaker, sir, I commend the bill to the House.
Seconded. Honourable members, I will suspend the sitting for half an hour.